I thought I might read something about a wheelchair
Okay.
and a man I met in the small town where we lived when I first got the chair that I'm sitting in now. I call this chair Little Red, perhaps because it is red. But I've been through, as the title says, 7 wheelchairs, and this is the one that's seemed to suit me best, or at least it's trained me best. With Little Red, I became a fixture in the town, a regular cruiser on its tree-lined streets. Streets, yes. Before environmental issues and equal access to government services became a political and social movement, small towns and rural areas wrote zoning ordinances for 2 reasons: to promote industry and to protect influential neighborhoods. Rarely did they zone for accessibility, at least until compelled by the 1991 Americans with Disabilities Act. In the little town where I lived for 15 years, there were few sidewalks in residential areas and fewer curb cuts anywhere. I traveled on the streets. Somebody should give that guy a ticket, a local grouch told my employer. He has no business running down the street in that thing. But the police only waved from their patrol cars when they passed me. I did see an officer stop and talk to another guy. That wheelchair user apparently had generated ill will among the town's animal lovers. I had noticed him mostly at a distance, but I never met the guy. I always needed a reason other than the commonality of cryptum before I approached another person with a disability. This fellow had a supercrypt chair, the sort of mobility device popular among paraplegics, especially those in athletic competition. Such chairs are little more than wheels, connected by slings on which the riders can sit. The lightweight rear wheels are cambered inward for maximum stability, and the tiny front casters are meant to minimize friction drag. It's a chair that can be hand-powered faster than the standard power chair. My rolling compatriot had shoulder-length hair, a patchy beard, and a wiry, loose-limb frame. He appeared as if dressed in cast-offs, always blue jeans, but sometimes wearing only a sleeveless T-shirt when a jacket might have been a better choice to shield him from the wind. His evident poverty and ramshackle appearances weren't the problem, though. It was these dogs. The beasts were pound mutts, I guessed. There were usually 3 of them, all relatively large, 40 or 50-pound packages of canine in assorted shapes and colors. He tied them to the frame of his chair with what looked to be a homemade harness, and he convinced the beast to pull him through the streets with a combination of yelling and an occasional pop with the remnants of a fishing pole. Not whippings with a fiberglass stick, not at least that I noticed, but rather a tap on the side or nose to steer the pack, with him helping by using his free hand to provide drag on the wheel when he needed to make a turn. That greasy little son of a bitch is cruel to those dogs, a friend said to me. Someone needs to slap him upside the head. I didn't argue. I didn't know, in fact. People in the North use sled dogs, but of course these weren't sled dogs. Nevertheless, I had never heard them whine or yelp or see them cower. They seemed fit enough, and for dogs work can be play. I never got close enough to the guy to make up my mind about the right or wrong of his choice. In fact, if I had tried to, I wouldn't have been able to catch him. My power chair can sail along at 4, 5, or 7 miles an hour, but his chair left me in the dust. I hope he didn't abuse his dogs, but I understood his need to move, and move faster and further. I suppose he could have bought 2 or 3 huskies or malamutes or some other breed made for drafting. Perhaps that might have deflected some of the complaints from the town's animal lovers. But the choice of dogs, I suspect, was a matter of money. He apparently used dogs that other people had thrown away. Ask me now, all these years later, and I will say I think he had learned what I had learned. Sometimes living disabled is about asking someone for help, even if you have to swallow your misplaced self-respects and illusions of independence. Other times it's looking on things with a cold eye and letting patience evolve into stoicism, if necessary, so that you can tolerate what you can't change. And occasionally it's about hitching an old mongrel to necessity and moving on no matter what anyone thinks.